Hey, everybody, welcome to NextGen ProServ podcast, a podcast where I bring on industry influencers and disruptors on our space to let our listeners know why Salesforce and Certinia are great applications to get your operations going. So I brought on a great friend of mine, Matt. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Do you mind introducing yourself for the audience?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Matt Padone. I lead our strategy and delivery efforts here at Further. Further is a data cloud and AI consultancy and product company focused on helping customers make better decisions with their data and jump into everything and anything enterprise AI.
Love that. I love the elevator pitch has not changed, and we've known each other for a very long time.
That's
So
right. That's
it's
right.
awesome to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for
Um,
having me. I'm excited.
yeah. I mean, what's really cool about the story for those listening is I got started in the Certinia ecosystem right by your side, right? We're
Yep.
brand new users to the tool at the exact same time as customers. And now I've shifted my career at Op Mentors consulting companies. And
Yep.
we're potentially re-entering into an engagement again to do some
Yeah.
optimization work. So do you mind telling everyone about Go Live and
Yeah, that
how the
journey.
business has used the tool over these years?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say Go Live was an interesting time for us because we had made a number of shifts in the organization and reorganized a bit. Surprise, we've done that again a couple times since then. But what really I think stood out to me in that process is how important managing the changes with the team members that are going to be using the platform. I think it's really easy, especially when you're like kind of in that mode of designing the system architecture and figuring out all the different components that you're going to use. I think it's really easy to kind of overlook like how important it is to really bring the team along with you and not just say, "Hey, I need you to do this and do these things and do them by this time," and whatnot. And I think we definitely made some missteps like when we started rolling some stuff out by not doing some of that.
Hmm.
And a lot of it, I think, was driven by leadership at the time, like had a very specific point of view on how we should do it. And, that didn't necessarily jive with like, well, how do you bring people along on that journey? So there was some really good learning from that. Um, but for me, the biggest thing is helping end users like understand what's in it for them. Like, why should they care about this? How is this going to make their day-to-day easier, even though it's a little bit different than how they're used to working? Um, so yeah,
Mhm.
our biggest I think challenge besides the managing of change was just probably not um pressure testing some of the decisions we made enough in like real world scenarios. So we
Mhm.
had a lot of like use case based, kind of testing and things like that. But we didn't do as much kind of live piloting. And I think that could have potentially helped us a bit.
Mm.
Again, I think a lot of that was driven by some top-down decisions around like timing of rollout. And like we just didn't have time to do that. And
Yep.
so, yeah, those are the two things I took away from it the most.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what's really cool about the Go Live with Search Discovery Now Further is the maturity of the organization from a revenue forecasting, project
Yes.
management, variance management, some of the most rigorous project management I've seen in the ecosystem. I remember our target was about 3% variance, both on hours and dollars on a weekly
Yep.
basis.
Yep. Yep.
All the way down to month-end close, right? We shored up our month-end close process so that we could be collecting cash quickly.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's really a hats off to your team, and I can't wait for folks to listen and say, "Can I meet them? Can I understand their operations?" Because you guys really were inventors, right? Or pilots of
Yeah.
work breakdown structures in spreadsheets that now Certinia offers Services Estimator, which is a
Yes.
tooling and module within Certinia now. But we were doing that 6 or 8 years ago.
Yep.
So
Yep.
even from a maturity standpoint, what has the business looked like, if you're willing to share kind of ebbs
Yeah.
and flows of
Yeah.
leadership structures, people
Yeah.
structures,
Yeah.
and how have you had to mature your operations, but also Certinia setup
Yes.
to follow along with your journey?
Yeah, I think, a couple things. One, it took us a while to realize that we really needed to have some kind of a clear process to maintain the system in a way that was beyond hey, this person knows how to update these fields once in a while. And frankly, we're still learning about some of that, which is why I think we've re-engaged with you guys. But we realized there was a lot of importance around kind of building that team out quite a bit. And not necessarily that, we needed to have dedicated like Certinia experts that are spending full time doing that, but I think more just having better connectivity across the business and the different, components and connections that we have into Certinia, out of Certinia, and just having the support we need there. We actually went through a sizable acquisition about 4 years ago. And that was something that, presented a scenario where we were doing some integration with a new finance team and a new finance system. And then also had adopted some different standards around like project management and some of that. And so that I think helped us realize like how we just need to be a bit more nimble in how we're doing things, which is not something that we were used to. That also, I think, lent itself really well to, just thinking more about like how we could potentially stay up to speed on some of the, features that are coming out and some of the things. I know when we had a conversation a couple weeks ago, one of the things that you had mentioned was some product updates that Certinia is focusing on around management of like an agentic workforce.
Mhm.
And I almost fell out of my chair because I'm like, we're talking a lot about automation and AI, obviously, in the nature of the business we do and what we do with customers, but we just hadn't really put a lot of thought into like, oh yeah, how are we going to manage that for ourselves? Which is
Sure.
fun because we always tell ourselves we need to do better with what we tell everyone else to do. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, drink your own Kool-Aid or champagne, right? What I loved the most too about working with you guys has been just such a thoughtful leadership team and structure around creating a strategy, practice areas so that fits really nicely into Certinia's structure really naturally,
yeah,
and the solutions that you offer your customers. Can you talk a little bit about what annual planning looked like for the executive team? And then what that looked like to map it into Certinia. So saying, this is our revenue plan and target. This is how we're
yeah,
going to set up accounts and projects. And like, what does
yeah.
that revenue forecast look like for you guys, that process?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you asked that because the timing of it is perfect. We literally just did a pretty big update to have a better connection between Certinia and our finance system. Because, like I mentioned, when we went through the acquisition, we moved over to NetSuite as our finance system.
Mhm.
And so we were doing a lot of things in a semi-automated way. So I think it took us from a place of being really advanced and integrated across the system to okay, now we're a lot less, technically integrated because there's a new system to work with. So we very recently got to the point where we've been able to kind of bring that back up to speed, specifically where there's connection between Salesforce, NetSuite, and Certinia. Not just the technical connection, but like the actual day-to-day process. So
Mhm.
one of the things that's really exciting for us about that is, as we're doing annual planning and kind of going through and setting, budget and things like that, and talking about our revenue plan, we can make sure that there's visibility and clarity across the entire pipeline flowing from Salesforce into NetSuite so that we have that clarity, but then also into Certinia so that as we're managing against that revenue, as we're continuing to close opportunities, that we have, resource alignment really clear. We have an understanding of cost and can calculate margin better. And I think that's where then, because it always goes back to AI, back to that kind of automation space, we can then start to have some more meaningful conversations
Mhm.
around how we deliver more efficiently, how we drive incremental margin, and how that doesn't necessarily always come. I think a lot of times it doesn't come from actual just incremental revenue,
Mhm.
but really thinking smarter about how we work, how we deliver. And honestly, I haven't seen another system do a very good job of that in the way that I've seen Certinia do it. So
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, over the story arc of our consulting careers and the different tooling that we've seen, right?
yeah,
There's this funny like talk track where it's like go from spreadsheets to Certinia.
yeah.
And I'm also like, but we've seen so many other systems throughout our
Oh yeah.
years.
Oh
We've
yeah.
used like true just task management systems,
Yes.
thinking we were managing our revenue.
Yes.
And now
Yeah.
Certinia is really blending that, quote to cash end to end in
Yes.
such a robust way. So that's what's exciting about the product releases, how
Yeah.
much it's upgraded year over year, because
Yeah.
you guys are evolving and seeing that too. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, if you were to talk about like future of AI and professional services, because that's what you guys do, and you have the floor here as well for all the
Yeah. Yeah.
listeners.
Yeah.
What are you seeing from an appetite perspective or solution design? What's
Yeah.
what's resonating out there for you today?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've got a lot of interest and excitement from clients around AI. And when I say like enterprise AI adoption, that can mean a lot of different things. I think, some of the conversations that we've had are really focused on solving a problem related to like customer engagement. And so that's a customer facing AI application. And we have quite a few out there that we've publicized that are, pretty cool and innovative. But that's one set of problems. That also comes with a lot more, rigor around making sure that the solution is safe and trusted. And we have really, strong beliefs about being ethical with the use of AI, making sure that not only customer data is protected, but that we're not, creating bad situations with, automation.
Mhm.
And then a lot of the use cases then center around like internal problems. So things like, hey, could we do this more efficiently? Could we make this person's day-to-day easier? One that I really, it's not like a industry you think a lot about when you think about kind of high level consulting, but we were working with a university
Mhm.
who was talking to us about their transcript assessment process. So they've had people that were applying and like bringing credits with them. And as you can probably imagine, that's a super manual process. Like that is
Mhm.
a human is sitting there reading through that transcript, looking at their course catalog, making notes, yes, no, maybe I need to go talk to the dean kind of thing. And the processing time is great. And what they realized was it's really hard to have a long processing time for that and like keep someone interested or excited when they're not a non-traditional student, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
like, hey, I'm going in and I applied and maybe I'll try to do this master's on the side while I'm working and have kids and okay, wait, they didn't get back to me on my transfer credits. Oh man, is this really going to take 5 years? If you can get a decision in 24 hours, it's a whole different ballgame, right? And
Sure.
so
Yeah.
that was one of the things where we didn't we didn't make that customer facing or future student facing because they wanted to test it, they wanted to work through it, and they didn't feel like it was something that needed to be. It could be internal, but there's still that human in the loop. Somebody's reviewing it and making sure that the responses are accurate, of course,
Yep.
but it made that person in the registrar's office day to day way easier, right? And
Mhm.
so those are the things I get excited about because whether it's customer facing or not doesn't really matter to us, right? As long as we're helping somebody accomplish something that they weren't able to do or they weren't able to do as well or as efficiently, that's exciting to us. I think as
Yeah.
it relates to professional services, it goes back to what you said of like, how do we do that for ourselves, right? And we've had a lot of different ideas, some fits and starts. I think we've gotten to a really good rhythm coming out of Q4 on kind of where we focus.
Mhm.
And what we've been doing is really looking at kind of end to end, like everything we're doing to support our customers, everything we're doing to create marketing collateral, everything we're doing to support, business pursuits, and really just kind of thinking about like how can we automate pieces of that? How can we make parts of that more efficient? How can we help? Because people are going to use AI. Like they're going to use ChatGPT, even if we didn't mandate it, they're going to use Gemini. And so, how do we do it in a way that is more systematic, has standards around it, is safe, is something that we're comfortable with?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so, yeah, I mean, like every other enterprise, we're working through that as well.
Sure. Yeah. So what was that like aha moment or decision moment when it was time to call out mentors? So, right, think about everyone listening today who is an existing customer, whether it might be for 6 months and they just went live,
Yep.
or 5 or 6 years and they know they're upgrading, but they're really not seeing the performance, right? The business outcomes using this tool. What would you say to someone today about asking for help at the right time?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to consider. For us, it's what made us, kind of reach out and reconnect is that we are at an inflection point as a business. And I think every business has, key milestones and inflection points, and they're all different for everyone. For us, it's really kind of looking at some of these things that we could do a bit better, that we could potentially automate a bit more, knowing that there's a lot of, product update that's coming out of Certinia, things that we just haven't really kept up to speed on as much, or we haven't had, dedicated support in our team to do. That's really what prompted us to reach out again, because I think that's where we're like, we just need to go to an expert. We need somebody who knows this and lives and breathes this every day, and that's you guys. And how can you help us quickly think about where we should prioritize, what we should focus on? Hey, I know you guys are going and doing that cool thing and you're going to build this. Why don't you think about using some of these features that already exist in this product you pay for, right?
Mhm.
So that, when we talk to clients about AI, we talk a lot about buying, boosting, or building AI solutions. A
Okay.
lot of people jump to building,
Hmm.
and that's not always the best answer. So for us to go try to recreate something that Certinia already does, it's silly. And I think that's true for a lot of people.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's what prompted us to reach out to you. What I would say is for anyone else, it's the expertise. It's the fact that you guys know this and do this, and any company that's trying to deal with these problems, like they're sample size of one. They're in it in that moment trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And to have the experience that you guys have and really have that come to the table, I think that's critical, and you can really share best practices from other customers and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. And little toot of our horn, right? You just asked like how was the conference? And we're on the main stage in mid-market, just riding this high where people are excited to reach back out. I think those
Yes.
long-term customers are like, who's that award-winning consulting partner? Who's innovating with people and hearing their modern challenges, but like leading with best practice. So I
Yes.
love that.
Yes.
So you said buy, boost, build.
Yeah.
They've bought it. We're focusing on value outcome with what you have today.
Yeah.
And we've changed our consulting model as a result, right? We have customers that are on quarterly strategic roadmap projects with us where we're not even hands on keyboard. We're strongly advising pivoting back towards what you bought. Boost,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Upgrade,
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
empower some new features. Like we're just so excited about that shift in the consulting ecosystem. It's not build first, and we're drinking that Kool-Aid too with implementations don't take 18 months and six figures anymore.
Right. Right.
Time to value. We have our offering to get you live in 3 months, regardless
Yes.
of your
Yes.
size. Like it's just amazing how ecosystem has changed. Users have changed. Their expectations of tooling and consultants have changed. And I think we're leading the way. So I just appreciate you guys calling because you are leading the way in your ecosystem too. So it's just really exciting and we're cheering for you guys. Um,
Thanks,
any
Molly.
parting advice? Anything for any particular user, right? If you were thinking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
someone in
Yeah.
your seat, what would you tell
Yes.
them? What did you learn using this tool?
Here's the biggest thing I think I learned from day one, but it's still true today, is don't rely on your assumptions, on your own understanding of how things work. Like leverage the tool, leverage the data, let it help you make those decisions and make them better, because data and data infused technology are going to get you a lot further than a spreadsheet, your notebook, and a couple meetings where you just talk a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I think and it plays itself out in so many different ways. But like when
For
you're trying
sure.
to manage a workforce and you're trying to understand what skills you have and where there's skill gaps and where there's, allocation challenges and what's your next hire and where are you making those investments, like use the data, and that's how I mean, we tell that to everyone, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what platform, but in this case, when you're talking about this kind of work, like lean into what the tool can do for you. And I think, don't underestimate the importance of like data hygiene and having quality data. And I think that's where, again, a partner like you guys, it's really helpful to get that kind of second set of eyes, that opinion that, hey, you guys have done this a bunch. How do we make this easier?
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time. I'm
Of
sure everyone's going to
course.
take little nuggets out of this. This was a perfect conversation. And we're wishing you guys a really successful 2026 on the AI front with human and agentic delivering together. I'm super excited about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Molly. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course, thanks.